Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome you to a runoff debate for the APFA's position of the Vice President of the Union. On behalf of the National Ballot Committee, my name is Brian Lane. I'm a Director of Debate at the University of North Texas. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the debate today. Let me go over a little bit of the ground rules for the format for the debate, and then I'll introduce the candidates to you. For this debate, we have an opening statement from each of our candidates. Then we've got a series of questions that they will debate each other over. The questions themselves were submitted by the candidates' campaigns to me. They submitted a number, and I chose among those. I've suggested questions from both sides. For every single question that we ask, each side will get an opportunity to answer for 2 minutes, and then each side will get an opportunity for rebuttal of the other side's answer, 1 minute for that. I've chosen 6 questions for us to debate this afternoon. We'll have that done through, and then at the end, each candidate will have an opportunity for closing remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to our candidates running for the National Office of Vice President, Mr. Larry Salas and Ms. Jennifer McCauley. Prior to the debate, we produced a coin toss that will decide our speaking order. Before we get started, I just want to remind everyone there's no recording of the debate. Nobody can do that. And any devices have to be turned off. Anyone in the audience, please maintain a professional decorum. Don't heckle or disturb the debate as we get things started. As I said, we did a coin toss. We'll start off with opening comments by Mr. Salas. Mr. Salas.
Thank you, Brian, the NBC, and all of our APFA members. Do you want to return to a broken APFA grievance and arbitration process which has failed us, or continue the process of reform initiated by my administration as National Vice President? It's clear we must move forward because our members deserve no less. We are at war with the company, so we must revamp the grievance and arbitration system because it does not work, and it doesn't work for our flight attendants. With the full support of the base presidents and negotiations team, we fixed the outdated provisions of the contract language. We aggressively fought the company on the delay in settling and scheduling of cases, causing the company to file a grievance against APFA to try and stop our efforts. We're building a fighting union, holding management's feet to the fire. My opponent wants you to believe that I've done nothing during my 4 years as vice president. She's wrong. With our in-house legal counsel, we fought management. We reached many settlements on key contractual violations that benefited our flight attendants and avoided costly arbitrations. We have aggressively filed presidential grievances and resolved countless other issues with binding settlements that not simply pay off flight attendants and letting the violations continue, as previous administrations have done, administrations that Jennifer McCauley has worked under. Jennifer McCauley previously worked as a regional rep with no transparency or accountability to our membership. Today, you can visit the APFA website and the SBA page to see the transparency of the SBA department, including the presidential grievances we filed during our administration and the settlements we have reached, benefiting our flight attendants. Our reform process is working, but we have more work to do. This election is whether you want to continue the progress we've made moving our union forward or return to a broken grievance system that all too often was in bed with the company. My opponent, Jennifer McCauley, knows all about that. She wants to cling to the past and continue collaborating with management to train your union reps jointly. That's not acceptable, and no other airline union follows this process, a process that only benefits management and not our members. I fully support training our reps, but it must be union-led grievance training. I am part of a team leading the industry for an industry-leading contract. I'm asking for your vote as National Vice President, a vote to continue reform.
Thank you. Ms. McCauley, your opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. Thank you, National Ballot Committee and national officers. As we enter the final stretch of our contract negotiations, we must ensure we stay strong, focused, and unified throughout the final process. The candidates who are elected to our national officer leadership will have more work ahead of them within their term. I made the decision to run for APFA National Vice President to see the Vice President's department through the process. With contract negotiations, there is an increase in workload that comes with the union and company facing off in reaching an agreement. Issues and conflicts increase with the contract that sometimes turns into additional grievances. It is the Vice President's department that must uphold our current contractual language and address any additional grievances. I have worked extensively in the grievance process throughout my years as a union representative. As a former base chairperson of 15 years, which to date is referred to as a base president, I have filed numerous individual disputes, group disputes, base disputes, and I've seen every single one of those cases through the process. As a regional representative working in the Vice President's department, I have handled the base cases that could not be resolved at the base level. I was responsible for building cases and compiling documentation for exhibits when presenting first-level hearings to the company, some of which ended up in arbitration, and I worked closely with those attorneys throughout the arbitration process. I have heard cases that the flight attendants have appealed to the Grievance Appeal Committee while sitting on the executive committee as an ad hoc. I have literally worked in every facet of our grievance machinery. I have the knowledge, experience, dedication, and drive it takes to run the Vice President's department. I'm running for the position of National Vice President because I have the desire to do the work for the membership.
Thank you, Ms. McCauley. Candidates, great opening statements. We'll move on to the questions now. There are a series of 6. By the coin toss, we're going to start with Mr. Salas. I'll state the question and then I'll repeat it. All right, and these are very specific questions in many cases. This is one. Here's the question. Sections 30 and 31 have been negotiated with proposed changes. What is your opinion of altering the grievance and arbitration process? I'll repeat. Sections 30 and 31 have been negotiated with proposed changes. What is your opinion of altering the grievance and arbitration process? Mr. Salas, your answer.
I absolutely support the changes we've made in 30 and 31. I was instrumental in making those changes happen. Jennifer McCauley wants to stick to an old system of working with management on costly joint grievance training. What union does that? And how does that benefit our flight attendants? Under my administration, we have been at war with the company to revamp the grievance and arbitration system, a system that doesn't work and doesn't benefit our flight attendants. It only helps the company. We've made changes to 30 and 31 that include training for our reps to effectively police and contract and defend flight attendants. No joint training with the company. We've incorporated new language that defines contract disputes. These disputes get expedited treatment for resolution or fast tracking to arbitration. We've extended the time to file a nod to 20 days, and we've extended the time to file a presidential grievance to 90 days. We've removed the neutral company facilitator from the DRC process, and we've established a grievance determination conference, presently known as caucus, which was added to promote effective resolutions of disputes and preserve traditional arbitration for discharge grievances and contractual disputes with widespread impact on our flight attendants.
Thank you, Mr. Salas. Ms. McCauley, the same question. What's your opinion of the Section 30 and 31 changes?
Sections 30 and 31 of our contract refer to the dispute resolution and grievance procedures. The ADR process was put into place after our 1993 strike. And under President Bill Clinton, the union and company agreed to interest arbitration over the numerous unresolved issues that we had. The interest arbitration was a 41-day hearing from October 1994 to March 1995, with over 1,000 exhibits and 9,000 pages of transcripts. And on October 10, 1995, the interest arbitration panel issued a 144-page opinion and award. Hence, Sections 30 and 31. One of the major problems that we've had in our history has been the major backlog of grievances. The ADR process has helped move these grievances through the system. And while I haven't seen the proposed changes in Section 30 and 31, if the company is not following our contractual language, then it is something that we need to address. It is not something that we need to put to the side because it's not working, or we don't want to challenge it, or we expect the language to change. That has yet to be ratified.
Thank you, Ms. McCauley. Every question has an opportunity for rebuttal. We start with Mr. Salas. 1 minute to refute on this one.
Jennifer, you said you haven't seen the changes, the proposed changes to 30 and 31. Let me remind everyone that we have a transparent system where you can go to the APFA website, click on the negotiations page, and see all the changes, all the TAs that we have gotten to. And in there, you'll see the changes that have been proposed for 30 and 31. So you go back, you mentioned that in 1993, we started the ADR process. I can tell you now, currently, with this management team, it does not work, all right? And we have worked with our base presidents to overhaul the current system. And everyone agrees the current system doesn't work. But Jennifer McCauley believes we should continue it.
Thank you, Mr. Salas. Ms. McCauley, the same option for rebuttal on this question.
The transparent page on negotiations doesn't go into detail on the exact process and the steps going through the grievance procedures. So while you probably have those details, we only see the highlights of the steps regarding this process. And once again, the current vice president is the only vice president since we have had the ADR system put into place that has not been able to effectively work under those sections in the contract.
Thank you, Ms. McCauley. Thanks both candidates for the answers to that question. Our second question is equally specific. We'll start this time with Ms. McCauley. Let me state the question. As the National Vice President, you oversee enforcing the JCBA, the Collective Bargaining Agreement. What current knowledge and training do you have of the Collective Bargaining Agreement to fight American Airlines management, labor, and legal teams? Let me repeat it. As the National Vice President, you oversee enforcing the Collective Bargaining Agreement. What current knowledge and training do you have of the bargaining agreement to fight Americans' management, labor, and legal teams? Ms. McCauley.
It basically comes in with your experience with the positions that I have held. And although we are in current negotiations, and I'm assuming some of the language will change, when we do experience grievances, we will take those, and if it is a individual dispute, those individual disputes are usually disseminated to the regional representatives, where we will meet for a quarterly system boards and review the cases. The same thing as a presidential grievance. It is something that the regional rep department will meet, and they will discuss and review the contractual issues regarding the grievance.
Thanks very much, Ms. McCauley. Mr. Salas, the same question concerning the JCBA. What current knowledge and training do you have to fight management, labor, and the legal teams?
We hired an in-house legal team, 2 in-house attorneys on the property, along with a legal assistant. We have never had this before at APFA. An in-house legal team with a working knowledge of our JCBA, effectively fighting this company against contract violations, unjust discipline, and terminations of our flight attendants. I've had 4 years of experience dealing with this current management team. My opponent has not done union grievance work since 2016. She hasn't worked with this current management team and the tactics that they use against our union and its members. Our team has a working knowledge of our contract. Our team fights this company every day for repeated violations of our contract. We just don't get flight attendants paid for these violations. We have reached binding settlements that stop the repeated violations. We've developed a caucus grievance conference to effectively fight management to reach settlements that benefit our flight attendants.
Thank you, Mr. Salas. The opportunity for rebuttal, Ms. McCauley.
The in-house legal counsel that has been incorporated into APFA, I have to wonder what exactly work they are working on, because in 4 years, there has only been one presidential grievance taken forward and one termination grievance taken to arbitration. In the past, we have used various attorneys to filter out to the different arbitrations with the attorney's expertise to go forward with these cases. And currently, we have attorneys in-house being paid salary that are not being utilized. And I have worked with this current management team. They are it is still the same group that is in play.
Thank you, Ms. McCauley. To wrap up a rebuttal on this question of the JCBA, Mr. Salas.
So our attorneys are busy at work for our flight attendants, fighting daily with fighting contract violations, fighting unjust terminations, as well as discipline. And we have been very successful in reaching settlements. And I understand the membership doesn't see all those settlements. However, the settlements and the topics we can cover are there on the SBA website so that you can view, so you can see exactly what's going on.
Thank you, Mr. Salas. Thank you, candidates, for that answer. Our third question returns us to the topic of arbitrations. This time we'll be starting with Mr. Salas. Let me state the question and I'll repeat. Arbitrations are a fundamental part of the Vice President's department. How will you proceed to achieve successful arbitrations? I'll repeat. Arbitrations are a fundamental part of the Vice President's department. How will you proceed to achieve successful arbitrations? Mr. Salas, your answer?
So to accomplish a successful arbitration, you have to start with an in-house legal team that has knowledge of our contract and company policy. As I said earlier, we haven't had that in the past. We now have a legal team in place that defends our contract, that defends our members. We meet, the regional reps meet with the in-house legal counsel twice a month to review cases. And if the decision is made that we move forward to arbitration, that legal in-house counsel works with our regional reps, works with me, and we build a firm, solid case that we can fight this management. We've been here. We've been fighting them. We've been here for 4 years, and this management team is ruthless. And we have to have legal in-house counsel that can stand up against that management team. Again, something we haven't had before. We've had past attorneys come in, outside counsel that has worked for APFA, but they drained our funds, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and they weren't here representing of our flight attendants. They didn't have a vested interest in our members like our in-house attorneys do. So I can tell you, they are fully prepared once we go to arbitration, and they've been very successful in the multiple termination grievances that we've had, as well as other cases that we have filed and successfully reached settlements.
Thank you. Ms. Pruitt, the same question. How would you successfully achieve arbitrations?
One example, we've had a presidential grievance filed on a reduction in staffing levels since July 23rd, 2020. And today is January 31st, 2024. This staffing issue relates to the 321T, 777-200, 777-300, and the 787-9 aircraft. Although arbitration was scheduled for January the 16th through the 19th of this month during national officer elections, it has been postponed, and it is now scheduled for April the 16th through the 19th during a new national officer term. With this type of presidential grievance, it is the union's burden to prove that the staffing level created is an unreasonable workload. This presidential grievance should have already collected data on board our aircraft to counter the company's practice to use time motion studies to justify staffing levels. APFA owns the model that collects the data on human factor analysis. This was created by Dr. Diana Damos, and we own this model. To my knowledge, we have not done any rides or studies on the staffing levels that we currently have on board our aircraft. With this arbitration scheduled to go forward, I have to wonder if we are truly prepared to take this case forward.
Thank you, Ms. McCauley. This same question, opportunity for rebuttal. Mr. Salas.
I can tell you we're prepared. We are prepared to fight this company at a presidential arbitration for staffing. You talk about the data. Data, yes, data is crucial. But getting information from our flight attendants who fly these understaffed trips is vital also. And I'm not going to go into all this, the strategy that we have, obviously, because the arbitration is upcoming, but I can tell you that we will be fully prepared to fight this company. Our in-house legal team will be prepared to present an arbitration defending our rights to have adequate staffing on our aircraft.
Thank you, Ms. McCauley. The same option to rebut here for 1 minute.
The major success in the 777 arbitration had to do with the scientific data that was collected on board the aircraft. And at this point, I really don't know what has gone into working on the burden of proof for the union to present to the company. I will say that with arbitrations, you're successful with your reps and your attorneys and the knowledge of who you're working with across the table. In 4 years, we've had one presidential grievance go forward on co-pairing. That went forward in November of 2022. That was over a year ago, and we still don't have an award.
Thank you, Ms. McCauley. Candidates, congratulations on a great job in the first series of our questions in the debate. We've got the halfway point. We're going to proceed into our next question. This time we'll start with Ms. McCauley. This is a question about fiscal responsibility. Here's the question. Being fiscally responsible for our members' dues is crucial. How do you plan to keep the SBA department under budget given the APFA's very tight budget? I'll repeat. Being fiscally responsible for our members is crucial. How do you plan to keep the SBA department under budget given the APFA's tight budgeting? Ms. McCauley?
It starts with appointing experienced regional representatives. And these representatives will have the duty and the responsibility to see their assignments through. They also, if needed, will be available to go and train. So instead of holding training courses, an experienced regional rep can go to the bases that they represent and actually assist the base leadership with training or cases or whatever else it is that they might need. The regional reps also play a big part in the arbitration process, where their knowledge and experience is valuable in being able to put together and build a case. And if the case has to go forward to arbitration, it is that knowledge and experience that assists with the time management to be able to either hopefully settle the case, or if we do go forward, to assist with the arbitration.
Thank you, Ms. McCauley. Mr. Salas, the same question. How are you going to keep it fiscally responsible and keep the SBA department under budget?
Yes, let me answer that question exactly. Unlike past VPs, I've run a fiscally responsible department. I've actively worked with our National Treasurer, Eric Harris, to frame an SBA budget that is responsible yet adequate. I facilitated the planning of a separate arbitration fund that's realistic but adequately funded to support our needs to defend our contract and our flight attendants without excessive wasteful spending that we've seen in past administrations. Also, our regional reps and I hold twice monthly virtual prep sessions instead of costly in-person meetings. That has had a tremendous help in reducing hotel costs and per diem, saving our members thousands of dollars, money that we can use to assist our members in other areas. We have created an in-house legal team, reducing the need for utilizing costly outside attorneys that have historically sucked millions of dollars from APFA. These attorneys have no real commitment to APFA or our members, nor did they have a working knowledge of our contract, constitution, or policy manual. With continued reform, I plan to run an efficient department that protects and defends our flight attendants, but doesn't excessively spend our members' dues. Our members are expecting us to be fiscally responsible.
Thank you. Ms. Pruitt, an opportunity to rebut this issue of fiscal responsibility. 1 minute.
Saving money is a detriment to the membership when you don't take cases forward.
Thank you. 1 minute to rebut that.
Well, I would have to disagree. We have to be fiscally responsible. We do bring cases forward, but we have to run a department that doesn't run over budget, as it's been in past administrations that you've worked under. So I agree, we have to fight. We have to have presidential grievances. We have to fight effectively against the company, but we can do that responsibly and not excessively wasting our members' dues.
Thank you, Mr. Salas. Candidates, question 5 takes us to the issue of training and education. Mr. Salas, we're going to be starting with you. Let me state the question. The National Vice President ensures training and education of all representatives involved in the grievance and arbitration process. How will you accomplish this responsibility? Again, the National Vice President ensures training and education of all representatives involved in the grievance and arbitration process. How are you going to accomplish this responsibility? Mr. Salas.
Well, I can tell you that joint ADR training doesn't work. It only benefits management. No other union does joint grievance training with management. We've worked hand in hand with our base presidents to overhaul the current system, and everyone agrees the current system doesn't work. But Jennifer McCauley believes we should continue it. Jennifer McCauley believes that APFA should spend tens of thousands of dollars doing joint training with management, which includes a happy hour following the training to get to know your manager. Managers who will later be at base as facilitators, rendering a decision in your favor. I don't think so. It rarely happens, and it's not happening now. You just have to ask your base president. Yes, training of our reps is paramount to effectively fighting a nod. As National Vice President, I've scheduled regularly union-driven grievance training sessions for new and current reps. But Jennifer and her old guard cling to an old system of joint training with management that doesn't work and doesn't benefit our flight attendants. My opponent states in her willingness to serve that it's time that we act like a union, yet she wants to continue working with management on joint training. ADR may have worked in the past, but we all know this management team is not the same. And APFA is not that business union any longer.
Thank you. Ms. McCauley, the same question about training and education.
Union representatives need to be trained to be able to understand the fundamental basics of representation. For base reps, it's introductory leadership training and ADR dispute resolution. For regional reps, it's continued education in the arbitration arena. The regional reps usually will attend the National Academy of Arbitrators conferences. that not only does this allow the regional reps to learn about cases and understand the process of certain arbitrations, you meet with the arbitrators and you get to know how they rule. And it helps when you select an arbitrator for an upcoming case. The training is necessary. And it is my understanding that we actually have base representatives who are not trained. They are not trained in basic representation, and they are not trained in the grievance process. Yet they are sitting in and trying to work through hearing a case when they don't understand what it is that they're supposed to be doing. I understand that there are reps that have asked for training, and they're not receiving training. This is unexcusable. The training is the fundamental basic for a union rep, and all representatives should be adequately trained.
Thanks, Ms. McCauley. The rebuttal portion, Mr. Salas, 1 minute on that issue.
Again, I will say, we have conducted training for our new reps. Anyone who's requested it has been given that training opportunity. We've had multiple training sessions during my administration. As far as regional reps continuing their education and going to training, yes, we attend those events as well. Honestly, I don't see the immense value in that. While training is important, but those sessions really are extremely expensive. And the really one-on-one, in my experience, that you get with those arbitrations really doesn't let you get to know, who the arbitrator is and how they may rule in an arbitration.
Thank you. That same question, the final word for rebuttal, Ms. McCauley.
So if we're going to cut costs and act like a cut-rate union, then we are obviously going to be performing like a cut-rate union. The training, it's imperative. It's imperative that union reps receive the adequate training so that they are properly prepared and they are able to represent our flight attendants.
Thank you very much. Candidates, our final question. It returns us to an issue we've been circling around, and that is the in-house legal team. This time we're going to begin with Ms. McCauley. The question is, the APFA has created an in-house legal department with a strong working knowledge of our contract. What's your plan for legal representation in arbitration? I'll repeat once again. The APFA has an in-house legal department with a working knowledge of our contract. What's your plan for legal representation in arbitration? Ms. McCauley.
I believe the policy was changed in October of 2022 for an in-house legal counsel and legal department. And I thought I read that there was one specific to the SBA department. And while this is a cost savings for APFA, once again, it diminishes our ability to take arbitrations forward with the proper attorneys that have a strong suit for various cases. It is also my understanding that that APFA is looking to add another in-house attorney. And I hope that's a rumor that can be addressed. But at this point, with having a salaried in-house attorney and taking very minimal cases forward, I don't see where the cost savings is anything to write home about.
Thank you, Ms. McCauley. Mr. Salas, the same question. Our in-house team, what's your plan for legal representation in arbitration?
So my fellow national officers and I implemented a legal department to help reduce APFA costs, saving hundreds of thousands of dollars by not utilizing outside counsel. Outside counsel that has drained APFA of members' hard-earned union dues. These attorneys had no real commitment to APFA or our members, nor did they have a working knowledge of our contract constitution or policy manual. Our in-house legal team is a fierce, tough group of attorneys, too, by the way, with a working knowledge of our contract and an understanding of company policy to effectively defend our members against contract violations and unjust discipline and terminations. They are vested in APFA. They assist me in assertively fighting for our flight attendants. Our attorneys accompany me to the grievance caucus to assist in facilitating resolutions that pressure the company to offer settlements benefiting our flight attendants. Our attorneys assist me and our regional reps on a day-to-day basis. They are included in our regional rep bi-monthly prep sessions, and they actively assist arbitration case preparation, building a solid and firm case to fight for our members when our contract is blatantly violated or our flight attendant is unjustly terminated.
Thank you, Mr. Salas. Ms. McCauley, the last rebuttal that you have on this issue of the in-house legal team.
In-house legal is not a bad thing. But once again, when you're talking about fighting cases, arbitrations, terminations, it is imperative that you have a pool of experienced attorneys that you are able to draw from, and you are not restricted by using one single attorney. I'm going to reiterate, in 4 years, we've had one presidential grievance go forward where we are still awaiting on an award. We have had one termination arbitration go forward in which we did not prevail. And we are currently kicking the can on the reduction in staffing for our arbitration on the other aircraft. While I can agree that in-house legal is helpful, it is not in the best interest for the membership.
Thanks, Ms. McCauley. Mr. Salas, the last rebuttal that you have on this issue of the in-house legal team.
So you keep referring that we haven't had presidential grievances move forward. Actually, we've had multiple termination grievances that has moved forward. And under my administration, we have gotten a lot of settlements done. You just have to visit the APFA website under the SBA webpage, and it highlights on a monthly basis the settlements that we have gotten to, settlements that have benefited our flight attendants.
Thanks very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to turn to our closing remarks. For these closing remarks, we begin with Ms. McCauley.
Thank you. I am running for the position of National Vice President to accomplish the work in the department. For me, it's about the work and not just occupying a position. The following are my commitments to the membership if elected. I will staff the Vice President's department with qualified and experienced regional representatives. They will work with their respective base representatives and assist with support regarding your cases at the base level. Grievances submitted to quarterly system boards will receive regional representative follow-up and communication from the Vice President's department regarding the case. Presidential grievances fall under the jurisdiction and direction of the Vice President's department. My department will vigorously pursue and challenge the company on contractual violations. I will ensure that every member receives the right for union representation, and the company does not violate that right. I will safeguard the confidentiality of each member regarding the disposition of their case. I will never agree to a reduction on staffing levels at any time. I will never waive the right to grieve staffing, changes to specific bid positions such as purser and/or speakers. And I will not utilize 1 cent of our union dues for furniture, moving expenses, or personal items. Our union dues are our hard-earned money. My opponent is seeking re-election and claims to fight for our members' right, yet management's assaults on our work group continue and are unrelenting. My opponent is the only vice president since 1993 that cannot uphold our contractual language on sections 30 and 31. My opponent has been derelict in his responsibility to ensure the training and continuing education of all representatives involved in the grievance and arbitration process. And my opponent has failed the membership with a basic duty to represent. It's been a long 4 years. It's time for change. I ask for your support for National Vice President.
Thank you, Ms. McCauley. Closing remarks, Mr. Salas.
Yes. Jennifer McCauley wants to go backward. I want to continue moving this union forward. Jennifer McCauley wants to continue working with management in a broken dispute resolution process that doesn't work, and no other airline union follows. A process that only benefits management and not our members. We are building a fighting union and holding management's feet to the fire. I'm advocating for a thoughtful and comprehensive approach to reform that addresses the current system's shortcomings, builds stronger contractual language to revamp the grievance and arbitration system, and expedites the grievance process to hear your cases promptly. We cannot maintain an antiquated and ineffective system. My goal and those who stand with me is to advocate for a grievance and arbitration process that truly serves the interests of our members, one that is fair, transparent, progressive, and holds American Airlines accountable. It's our responsibility as union members to engage in meaningful dialogue and debate about the best path forward, rather than resorting to divisive rhetoric that pits one faction against the other. This is not about personal interests. It's about protecting and fighting for not only the 27,000 American Airlines flight attendants, but fighting for our profession. You need leadership with a proven record for fighting American Airlines daily and who are going to fight to represent our flight attendants. I urge you to consider the issues at stake in this election. Look beyond the rhetoric and assess the merits of each candidate. Our union deserves inclusive, forward-thinking leadership committed to representing the best interests for all members. In closing, I thank you for your attention and consideration. Together, we can shape a future for APFA that's built on unity, integrity, reform, and a shared commitment to represent all of you. We've built a fighting union. A vote for Julie Hedrick, Larry Salas, Josh Black, and Eric Harris will ensure we can continue moving forward with this union and win the fight against American Airlines management. To learn more, thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been watching a runoff debate for the National Office of the Vice President in the APFA. My name is Brian Lane. I've been your moderator for this debate. I want to take this opportunity to thank both candidates for a very insightful discussion around these questions. They are very important and face our members directly. My thanks also to the National Ballot Committee for sponsoring this debate, putting it together, and make sure that everything ran smoothly. Now it's your turn, ladies and gentlemen. If you're out there and you're listening and watching this, that means that you have a decision to make. It's time to get out and vote. There are important issues. There are important decisions. For our staff here at the National Ballot Committee and everyone at the APFA, take this very seriously. Go and join your ballots. Enter them in and vote as soon as you can. Thank you very much.